When discussing the topic of abortion and the Bible, it is quite common for someone to bring up Numbers chapter 5, verses 11 to 31, which is known as the test of an unfaithful wife, ceremony of the bitter water, or jealousy and bitter water test. This text is spoken by the Lord to Moses about what to do if a man's wife is unfaithful and has been having sex with another man, but the husband is unaware of what is happening. She has cheated on him, but it is hidden and there is no witness. However, if the husband becomes suspicious and jealous, he is supposed to bring his wife to the priest with an offering. The priest then takes a container of water and he sweeps dust off the floor and puts the dust into this container of water. The priest then brings the woman before the Lord, and he says to her, "If you have been faithful and if you have not cheated, then may you be free from this bitter water which brings a curse. But however, if you did cheat, then the Lord make your thigh rot and your belly swell." The woman says, "Amen, so be it." She then has to drink the water, and if she has cheated, then her belly will swell, her thigh will rot, and the woman will become a curse among her people. However, what is important to note is that it is possible for a man to become suspicious and jealous of his wife, even if she did not cheat. If the wife was faithful, then drinking the water will have a completely opposite effect. She shall be free of the curse and will conceive children. There are several very important observations. Number one, nowhere is there any mention of a pregnant woman. Number two, nowhere is there any mention of an unborn child. Number three, abortion is a medical surgical procedure. It is a physical act of intentionally going into a woman's uterus and killing the unborn child. Even if Numbers 5 mentions pregnancy or unborn children, it does not. But even if it did, there is nothing anywhere in the text of any human being going into a woman's body to kill the child. Number 4, there is an underlying argument and assumption accompanying the use of Numbers 5 that if God can be God and take life, then we also can be God and arbitrarily take life. I do not like to state the obvious, but we are not God. That's important. We are not God. Number 5, dusty water does not end a pregnancy. Now stop and think about that. If dusty water caused abortions, then people could just sweep their floor and drink it. There's no need for contraceptives or the morning after pill. If you don't want to be pregnant, then just put some dust in your water, maybe flavor it with some lemon, or just add a teaspoon of dust to your fruit smoothie. Probably wouldn't taste any different than ground up nuts or flax seeds. If dust ended pregnancy, then women would never be able to eat fresh fruits and vegetables ever again unless they were thoroughly cleaned and peeled. Areas of the world that are dusty would have the lowest birth rates. Women would never be able to go outside. This is, of course, ridiculous. And to make the claim that the bitter water induces abortion is completely false, because in verse 28, if she is faithful, this will cause her to conceive children. Those who attempt to use Numbers 5 to support abortion have the impossible task of explaining how something can both cause abortion and also cause a woman to conceive. They also have to explain how dusty water can determine whether or not a woman has been faithful to her husband. The fact of this situation is that the curse was not in the water itself, but in the judgment of God. If God determines that the penalty for adultery is the loss of the resulting child, that is his prerogative and well within his authority. He did as much in claiming the life of David and Bathsheba's first child. This brings us to the next point. When people abuse the text and try to claim that God killed a child in Numbers 5, this raises a serious problem because God also killed a child in 2 Samuel 12. And the Lord struck the child that Bathsheba bore to David, and it became ill, and on the 7th day it died. This was a newborn baby, and God took its life or allowed it to become terminally ill. If people want to use Numbers 5 to support abortion, then to be consistent, they must also support infanticide. Whether a baby is in the mother's house, mother's car, mother's arms, or mother's womb, the Bible defines the born and unborn with the exact same words, regardless of their geographical location. The Bible does not provide any qualitative difference between the born or unborn. They are all unanimously defined as living human children and therefore under the protection of the 6th commandment. If abortion is okay, then so is infanticide. Those who claim Numbers 5 have a burden to provide evidence answering the following question: what biblical principle makes a distinction between a child born 2 months premature from a 7-month fetus, making it a crime to kill the first, but merely an exercise of personal freedom to destroy the second? Of course, they can't provide such evidence because it doesn't exist. In fact, it gets worse because to argue that the act of God taking someone's life therefore means that we can take life, then to be consistent, there's no need to stop at infanticide. We can take life well into adulthood because God struck many people dead who were full-grown adults. In this same book of Numbers, chapter 11, people complained and were consumed with fire. Is it now okay to burn people who complain? In Numbers 16, people criticized the leadership of Moses and they were swallowed up by the earth. Is it okay now to kill people who criticize? Many people who support abortion do not believe the Bible anyway and do not believe that God exists. Yet conveniently, they use this text which presupposes that God does exist. Even if the text mentioned pregnancy, it does not. Dusty water does not cause abortion, and the priest does not do anything to the woman's body to cause abortion. This is a supernatural intervention of God. Nothing can or will happen unless God himself intervenes in a miraculous manner. In fact, it should be highlighted that nowhere in this text is either society or even the husband involved. The consequences of this test are completely and entirely with God alone. Nobody else is involved. Furthermore, nowhere in this text is there any explicit or even implied suggestion or command authorizing humans to poison or violently dismember a child in utero. The use of Numbers 5 in connection with intentional abortion is completely unrelated and unjustified. To argue Numbers 5 in the context of intentional abortion is to support the idea that if any abortion should take place, then God must perform it supernaturally, which only undermines any argument for a human-induced abortion. Citing Numbers 5 only hurts. It just hurts the pro-abortion argument. This is why experienced people who support abortion never cite from Numbers 5 because they know it's a loser. If you are interacting with someone who uses Numbers 5, they are either, number one, ignorant of the abortion issue, or number two, they know and they are bluffing, hoping that you don't know any better. In my observation, almost 100% of the time, most people who use this text are assuming the ignorance of their audience because as soon as you show any awareness of the text, they immediately drop it and move to another argument. They do the what about? Well, what about this? And what about that? The phrase that her belly will swell and her thigh will rot or her thigh will fall away. Nobody is really sure what this phrase means because it does not appear anywhere else in the Bible. And importantly, there is no record that anyone, anywhere, at any time, even performed this test. Dr. Roy Gain makes the point, scholars have not agreed on the gynecological implications of the Hebrew terminology. They sound painful and clearly cause sterility. So the conditional imprecation to which a suspected woman must assent by saying amen, amen, specifies outcomes that any Israelite woman dreads: social stigma, physical suffering, and inability to bear children. And the word miscarry, which you see right here, assumes that there is a pregnancy, and of all the major versions, the word miscarry appears again only in the NIV, but the Hebrew word for miscarry, shakal, does not even appear anywhere in this text, and is not even used in the entire book of Numbers. Throughout this text, we have several opposites, being faithful and unfaithful, a call for blessing and a call for cursing. If there is faithfulness, there will be conception, and if there is unfaithfulness, then there is a curse of barrenness or sterility, which is consistent with this unit of text and with the rest of the Old Testament. Throughout the Bible, barrenness is considered a curse, and children are considered a blessing. So the frightening results of this test would have struck terror in the heart of people and would have served as a powerful deterrent from committing adultery. However, even if this verse stated that the woman was pregnant and that there was an unborn child, it does not. But even if it did, and even if this verse stated that God would supernaturally take the life of the child, that has nothing to do with the question of voluntary induced abortion. This entire test is about jealousy and the Lord acting as a witness in trials that otherwise had none. There is no witness, so the Lord will be the witness. This legislation also aims at protecting the woman from abuse and injustice, whether she is guilty or innocent. The whole case is taken out of human hands and placed before the judge of the universe, who promises to judge righteously and read the verdict by supernatural means. Whenever you get the Numbers 5 question, this is a great opportunity to open the Bible, because it reveals how much God is concerned about preserving the family unit and marriage relationship. God is so concerned about any suspicion in a marriage that He is going to get personally involved to resolve the matter. No need to hire private investigators or call the police. God Himself will handle it, and if there is wrong, then He will punish. And if there is innocence, then He will bless. As an aside, I personally find verse 15 right here very interesting, because it presents the concept of bringing an offering for a memorial in order to bring iniquity to remembrance. This same concept was preached about by Jesus in the Sermon on the Mount. If you bring your gift to the altar and there remember, if it comes to your mind that your brother has something against you, leave your gift there before the altar and go your way. First to be reconciled to your brother, and then come back and offer your gift. It is very important for our relationship with God that we have not only acknowledged and repented of known sins, but also unknown. It is interesting that somehow bringing an offering before God seems to precipitate an awareness to issues in our life that need to be addressed that we were unaware of. And the process of making things right is so important that we are to leave from the altar and go take care of that problem before continuing in worship. That's an interesting topic, but we can study that some other time. In summary, Numbers chapter 5 has nothing to do with abortion, and again, the moment that you show any awareness of the text, they will just drop it and do the what about and try to what about you to death. It is completely impossible to support abortion using the Bible, and they know it. There's more that can be said, but that's enough for this video. Thank you for watching, and peace.